It must have been great to go back and work with the brothers again after so many successful films.
You know,
together.
they finally figured out how to direct a movie.
That's
Yeah.
a positive.
Yeah.
After all these years of
No,
trying.
they've always been extraordinary. They simply get better and better. I think this movie is a marvel. It's 6 movies in one.
Tell us a little bit about Buster Scruggs and what you found interesting about him when they kind of offered you the part and you read the script for the first time.
Well, who wouldn't want to play a singing cowboy who shoots everyone who crosses him? It was a great role to play, a wonderful challenge, and I'm really happy it's done, and that we're here enjoying its unveiling in London.
Absolutely. It's a very, very cinematic film. Obviously, it's going to be available on Netflix. I mean, are you hopeful that people do seek it out in a cinema, or are you happy that they'll get to see it in whatever way they choose?
I'm quite grateful that Netflix is opening it in theaters for cinephiles, and that they're putting it on the Netflix platform so that it'll be seen all over the world in places where there aren't movie theaters. So I think it's the best of both worlds. So I'm really grateful.
Yeah. Just finally, as a fan, I know you're attached to the new Watchmen TV show. I'm sure you can't tell me anything, but are you excited to kind of go back to the comic book world? Because you've done it a couple of times before.
Yeah, and this is its own. This is its own version of that. It treats the Watchmen book as history. So this is as if it's 2019, and all of that stuff happened back in 1985. And we're now in the future of that world. And it's very smart. I think it's a really smart approach to it. And the filmmaker, Damon Lindelof, is a pretty astonishing, bright guy.
I think of my character a little bit like a bird in a cage, and the cage door opens and she doesn't know how to exit the cage. And you sort of see her start to gain confidence and gain a sense of herself over the story, and I admire her for that.
That marriage is still complicated as in the old Wild West or not?
It's probably more complicated because I think people used to get married more often with no romance in mind, more of a practical partnership, and I think love probably complicates things.
What do you like about the Western movie?
I think it's a really interesting chapter in my country's history. I think it's also interesting the way that the Western has captured the imagination of the rest of the world. There must be something archetypal about it.
As a filmmaker and a writer yourself, I mean, when you worked with the Coens, did you learn a lot from them? Because obviously, I mean, Wildlife was amazing, but did you learn a lot from them going forward in your career?
Yes and no. It's a little bit like asking a sculptor if he can learn from Michelangelo. Yes, but when you look at something really perfect, it's actually hard to learn from. Their writing is so extraordinary. I will say, watching them on set, I feel like I learned a lot from watching how they conduct themselves. They're so good at delegating. They have so much trust in their collaborators. They're kind of the opposite of micromanagers, and that's a good thing to see. Perfectionists, not micromanaging.
It's very cinematic as well, but obviously it's going to be on Netflix as well. I mean, are you hopeful that people go to the cinema to see it, but also that people from different parts of the world will be able to see it as well?
Well, that's exactly it. I hope that people that really are real cinephiles will still go to the movies and see this one, because the cinematography is so extraordinary, and I having seen it on a smaller screen and seen it on a big screen, I think there's a whole other chapter of pleasure there to be had on the big screen. But, I have a lot of family that live in parts of America where there's no art house cinema, and they very rarely get to see movies that I do on the big screen. So having them be able to see it right away is pretty cool.
I mean, it's a fantastic movie, but also getting to work with the Coen brothers, I mean, absolute dream, I can imagine.
An absolute dream. And not only did I get to work with the Coens, I got to do it making a Western. I think it's sort of what every little boy wants.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's cool with Westerns though, because these days, even though some people think they're out of date, there's so many of them these days. That
it's really making a comeback. And I think cinema's so young, really. I think the idea that it was an antiquated, that cinema was, that the Western was an antiquated genre is disintegrating, because I think it's actually a really relevant form. You can really distill the human experience when it's set in this vast landscape that is immensely beautiful and incredibly dangerous. You know, it allows for a kind of a real moment-to-moment exploration about what it means to survive as a human being. So it really brings into relief the entirety of the human experience. I think it's a really useful framework for storytelling. I think it's quite relevant.
I mean, it's testament to the Coens that they're able to attract so many amazing people. But as directors, seeing them working, I mean, it must have been so invigorating to see them work and to see just how to see how successful they've become.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, there's such an ease to what they do. Not only because they're more prepared than any artist I've encountered prior, but they love what they do, and they have such a confidence in being able to do what they do in the way that they love to do it, and that just informs the entire experience. You know, you feel both invigorated and inspired and protected, and sort of gentle.
And I guess this is slightly different for them in the sense that it's a Netflix film, but it is going to get a theatrical release. I mean, for you as an actor, how do you sit with the Netflix thing? Do you think it's a good platform for people to be able to see them in the movies and on the TV, or do you prefer watching them at home? Because this is such a vast, very cinematic movie.
Yeah, no, very. And I'm very excited for people to see it on the big screen. It's an extraordinary experience, but I would hate for that to be the only set of folk that could see it. You know, the fact that it will be available to as many people as possible is thrilling, and you know, a great blessing of our current technology. You know, all the shit that comes along with it. You know, you get to share what it means to be a person in a way that's unique and I think inspiring.
Yeah. And for audiences, perhaps who don't know too much about the movie, what do you think they can expect when they go and see it on the big screen?
I expect to be challenged. You know, it's a unique format in that it's, for those who don't know, it's an anthology film. So there's 6 separate chapters, separate stories with separate casts, and you know, sort of separate subgenres of the Western genre at large. But in a way that I think is quite satisfying. Each story gives permission for the next to exist and informs what your experience might be, or sort of undercuts what your experience might be. And I think it's very exciting. You know, it'll ask a bit more of you as an audience member, but for my money, in a way that will be enticing. Well met.
Tell me what it was like when you got the call to say that Coen Brothers wanted you to be part of this special movie.
Amazing. I mean, I was just over the moon. I grew up watching their films. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou was a huge moment in my film watching career, and so to be able to get to work with them was a dream come true for me. It really was.
I mean, it's a testament to them as filmmakers that they attract so many amazing talents. You part of that, and also this amazing cast. I mean, what was it like being amongst that cast, particularly in your little section?
Well, working with Liam Neeson was amazing. He is one of the most generous, caring available actors. You know, a lot of our scenes are just held in silence, and I felt so safe in that silence with Liam. Do you know what I mean? Because there was so much generosity and love coming back to me, and it was important for that relationship because it is a relationship where they are completely dependent on each other, and to be able to have that with Liam was a joy.
Yeah. I mean, you've been involved with, obviously, the Harry Potter series, which are these huge movies on the big screen. This one's doing the big screen and on Netflix. I mean, are you someone that enjoys the fact that people will be able to see it all over the world on that platform as well?
I mean, I'm a big believer in as many people that have access to it, the better. And what's great about this is you can see it on the big screen if you want to. You can see it at home if you want to. But the point is, you can see it, you know, and that's what excites me about this. You know, we make films for them to be watched, so that's.
And just finally about Harry Potter, I mean, you're still part of the franchise, even though you're not. I mean, do you still keep tabs with the guys, and do you still keep tabs on Fantastic Beasts and everything?
It's a bit like school, you know. You finish school and you sort of all go off and you do your different things, and So unfortunately, I'm in touch with Fiona Shaw. I play my mum quite a bit on and off, but I haven't seen Dan in years, unfortunately. And I guess everyone's so busy, you know.
Tell me a little bit about how you got involved with this. I can imagine the words to Coen Brothers. It was an easy thing for you to just think, I want to be involved with this.
I have one of their books on my table. You know, the works. I auditioned. You know, good old-fashioned audition. I sent the tape, and they liked it, and I met them in London, and then met them again the next day for a different role, and then waited a while, and you know, and they liked what I did, and then flew out there and rehearsed with the guys, and that was it, you know.
I mean, they're such extraordinary filmmakers. I mean, was that evident as soon as you met them, just how amazing they are at their job, and they tell such amazing stories?
Well, what's immediately evident when you turn up on set is the amount of people they have working with them that have been there for the long haul.
The whole way through.
And they have the very best people working on every department. If you ask for a cane, not only do they think they're like, great, love it, a cane, but the guy turns up with a box of canes, you know, and then suddenly you're like, oh, I like this one, but I wish it was brown. Suddenly it turns up and it's brown, but with a less it's just everyone has such pride in their jobs, but are the best in the business, and that was really evident. But what also struck me with them is the amount of trust they have in the people around them.
Yeah.
They do. They're not micromanaging everything. They love what other people do, and bring to the party.
I mean, it's a testament to their quality that they attract so many amazing stars. And this one, they've got a plethora of people because of the way the film's shot and all these segments. You got to work with Brendan Gleeson. I mean, that in itself must have been very, very exciting.
Look, of course I'm an Irishman, so he's a hero of mine. It was amazing. Brendan Gleeson is, I mean, he's another level for me and for my taste anyway. And he was fantastic and a very calming influence, you know, because we were doing, 20-minute long takes, because of the way it worked. And he was great to work with and a great guy, you know. Loves a song, loves a story. It was good crack on set, tell you that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this could be a Netflix film, people will be able to watch it at home, but also be able to see it on the big screen. I mean, are you hoping that people do go out and seek it out on the big screen rather than watching it on their Netflix?
I just hope there's enough opportunity for people that want to see it on the big screen to see it. That's all I hope, you know. I'm a huge fan of Netflix, but I also think there's been some films, Netflix originals that I've seen that I would have happily paid to go and see on the big screen, because I just like that theatrical experience and being held captive in a theater.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys,
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.